The cult of conservative Christianity. Let's go!
When I was a kid, I would go to a summer camp every year called Camp Windshape, which was a Christian summer camp program founded by the same people behind Chick-fil-A. It's like a 2-week thing, so you're staying overnight with a whole bunch of other guys. There's also a girls' camp, but you're separated and then you come together for like one day to do a dance or a relay or something like that. I don't really remember. It was like a mixture of faith-based teaching with like sports and games, and it was fun.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I would never send my kid to a Christian camp, ever. Ever. Just knowing what I know about the priests and the church and the Vatican and what they do to little boys and little girls, I would never ever send my kid to a church, like a kid church camp in the fucking woods, bro. Come on, dog. Parent of the Year award.
It was a summer camp, but you basically had to go to church every morning and evening, which I didn't mind. Really, I really just sat through it to get through all the games, and of course there were good teachings. Every now and then we'd dress up as Native Americans, and they'd do this thing called council ring, where we sing songs, and looking back at it, it was interesting. I don't want to say they did this to be racist, but it's definitely, insensitive, and they have, of course, stopped doing this. I think there are pictures of me dressed in the yeah, I didn't really think too much of it as a kid. I had fun. So around 2014, I was there for my summer session and I had a question for my counselor. During this time, the US was bombing Syria as justified strikes against ISIS, and this was a
ISIS. Oil.
point in my life as a young man where I began seeing the effects of war. And this wasn't like movies, this was real life. I was seeing on the news and online pictures of dead children. As a kid, I felt bad. This was very depressing. So during that session of my summer camp, I pulled my counselor aside and I asked him, hey, counselor, there's children, kids the same age as me that are being killed, dying in this part of the world. And from what I see, a lot of them are not Christian. Most of them are Muslim. I know our faith says that those who do not believe will go to hell. But what happens to these kids when they die? And some of them didn't probably didn't even know what Christianity was.
It's funny that he said that because that was one of the things. Growing up, my mother was a Christian. My family were Christians. I was put into the church. I was told to read the Bible, as many kids are. And I didn't question it until I just got a little older, and and I started having some questions. And one of those questions was like, okay, so in the Bible, it says the only way to get to heaven is through Jesus and believing in Jesus and being a Christian. And if you do that, then it doesn't really matter what you do in this life. You just go to heaven if you believe, and He'll pay for all the sins that you're gonna do. But what happens to what about the kids in other parts of the world that have no idea who Jesus was or what Christianity is? Where do they go? Do they go to hell? What about the kids who were born in a different part of the world? What about the children who were born deaf and mute? What about the children who were born and then died of cancer as soon as they left the womb? Where did they go? Where are their souls? You see how it doesn't really make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. If the only way to get to this heaven is to believe in God, then that means everybody who doesn't isn't going. And then I had to sit to myself because I was like, okay, did I just hit the geographical lottery? Was I just happened to be born as a kid in the early 2000s in the United States, and I just happened to be born in a place that identifies widely as the main religion being Christianity, and I was therefore exposed to this, which now means that I was born with a ticket into heaven? Did I just hit the geographical lottery, and the people who were born in Iraq or Asia or other parts of the world didn't get that ticket? And if so, isn't God the one who creates everybody and creates everybody's lives, and He's omnipotent and He knows everything and He creates all things? He's all powerful. So why do some kids get what, if the Bible is true, eternal damnation for being born in a different part of the world that practices a different religion? That doesn't make sense. And again, don't hate, yo. I say used to be a Christian because, again, what we're about to talk about here, Christian nationalism has basically turned me off to the entire thing, as many people have. I believe MAGA, I believe the right, I believe nationalists, white supremacists, racists, homophobes, misogynists, and the worst people on earth have basically taken this book and have basically used this to hurt people. So I don't really like saying that I'm a Christian, even though I do believe in Jesus. I believe in Yeshua. I believe he was a spiritual teacher. I believe he came down here to help people unlock something much different. We might be able to get to that in another video, or maybe in this video if he touches on that, which I doubt he will. But it just doesn't make sense. It just never really made sense.
Christians, what happens to them when they die? And he looked at me, and I felt like he was disappointed to say, well, they go to hell. And that probably wasn't the best answer that he could have gave me, but in retrospect, these counselors were kids. I mean, technically they were in college, but you know, like as a kid I was like, well, that makes sense. But that's always been something that I've always thought about in the back of my mind. And yeah, now this video isn't about personal faith or spiritual belief.
Another thing too about God, if God is omnipotent and he's all powerful, right, time has no constraint on God. Okay, God is outside of time. He created time, right? So he knows the past, future, present. He knows everything that's going to happen. He knows everything that has happened. He knows everything. And he can control everything. He can stop anything. He can create anything because he is, in the Bible, like he says, all powerful. So if he knows everything, that means he knows every decision that I'm ever going to make, even before I make it. He knows exactly how my life is going to go. He knows what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight. He knows what video game I'm gonna fucking play tonight. He knows who I'm gonna marry. He knows who my kids are. He knows if I'm gonna get a ticket for jaywalking in 3 years. He knows it all. He created it all, right? So if he knows everybody's life, if he's all powerful and he's all knowing and he created everybody, then why do people go to hell? Wouldn't, while he was creating, already know that person was gonna go to hell? He already knows that person's life, even before they take their first breath. In the Bible it says, before you took your first breath, I knew you. I knew you. Before you took your first breath, I knew you. So he knows us. He knows our lives. He knows what decisions we're going to make. He knows if I'm going to choose to believe in him or not. And he knows some people won't. So did he create some people to get on this earth knowing that they're going to, after this life is over, they're just damned to eternal damnation? Or not stopping them? Or it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And Christianity and a lot of other organized religions really count on the fact that you don't ask these questions. They just count on the fact that you just blindly don't read the Bible and just blindly listen to these leaders and blindly listen to what you're told for obedience.
What happens when Christian identity becomes a political weapon? Because despite the counselor telling me this, somebody told him this when he was a kid probably. And somebody told them that.
Bro,
and I feel like that's just the wrong way to look at things. However, make no mistake, many Christians themselves reject the nationalist, bigoted politics that we're about to examine.
Texas, I've officially filed to become your next congresswoman. So the choice is yours. Vote for me so we can kick every dirty Muslim out of Texas. Save your daughters from getting raped by Mohammed and protect our soldiers from getting murdered in broad daylight.
White Christian men are not going to sit around while you turn our children into a bunch of nigger lovers.
I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry.
Oh, Charlie Kirky.
Charlie Kirky. I spot the perky.
Is that Mr. Charlie Kirk, bruh? A Kirk clip? We got a Kirk clip in this bitch? Hell yeah, bruh.
I'm sorry. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Great replacement strategy, which is well underway every single day on our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different.
I am opposed to tolerance. Tolerance is not a Christian virtue. And love in the Christian sense is very different from the kind of love that people talk about. When he saw things that he didn't like, he literally cracked the whip. He brought the whip out. And that is what he wanted us to be, which is strong and assertive Christians, and to hate evil and to love goodness. And, this is not a country that does that. This is a country that is in love and infatuated with evil and hates, frankly, goodness.
That's 100 and complete bullshit. First of all, he is partly right. Jesus did take out whips. He did throw tables of people trying to sell things at temples. Every time he went into a temple, he got kicked out. He almost got stoned to death. But the reason for that is because he was trying to get people to leave organized religion. Jesus Christ was not there. For this story that was written about him isn't true. They've taken the story and they've changed it. They've altered it. Yeshua, his real name was Yeshua, and he was a spiritual teacher, much like Buddha, much like all of these spiritual teachers, enlightenment teachers, teaching you how to be one with Christ consciousness, teaching you how to be one with God, because God is all around you. You don't have to go to a church to find God. You are God. God is inside of you. You come from God. You are a son child. That will make sense later when the Epstein files drop and people find out what that means. It's a little nugget right there. But yeah, he's not cracking the whip at people the people who he hates or something. He's cracking the whip at the people who are oppressing his people, the people who are the religious leaders that he called snakes and serpents and vile, that they only care about money and power and not God. That's who he cracked the whip at. Not black people, Nick. Jesus was black. Can I say that? Jesus was a nigga.
My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my nigga.
Jesus was my nigga.
Jesus Christ is my nigga. He's the son of the original G. And he was sent to earth to elucidate the way that we should be.
Jesus was a black man. He was from the Middle East in a time where he was Jewish. Jewish in the Middle East at that time, the first Israelites were black. Egypt, Israelites, we started everything. You guys just took it, changed it, and then use it now to justify you being hateful and racist and homophobic and pieces of shit to everybody. And now I have to call myself a Christian, and when people hear that I'm a Christian, they think I'm one of these Christians, or they assume now, because they now think about MAGA. When you're a Christian, you now think MAGA. You now think racism, homophobia, bigotry. You think these things because Jesus's followers are the people who they act like this. It's sick.
And hates, frankly, goodness.
This is not an attack on Christianity or spirituality. I want to talk about particular state-backed political ideology that uses Christian symbols and language to demand dominance.
It's about the forces of evil versus the people of Jesus Christ.
Christ is king! Christ is king! Christ is king! Christ is king!
The funniest part about all of this is that if Yeshua actually came back today, if Jesus Christ himself, the real Jesus that's in the Bible that they wrote about, if that man in all of his glory came to that rally, he would get lynched. He would get beaten and spit at and called a nigger and mocked and shit on. Yet they genuinely think that they're doing this for this white Jesus. This is who they think Jesus is. And until they see this man, that's who they're waiting on. But Jesus really looked like this, if we're being accurate. And if that man came to this rally, he would get stoned. He would get lynched. He would get spit on. He would get called a nigger. Yet they want to take this stance like they're holy and that they're protecting Jesus and defending Jesus. Y'all really think Jesus would rock with you? Even the Jesus in the Bible. Even the Jesus in the Bible that talks about love and acceptance and caring and helping the poor and healing the sick, and even that guy wouldn't fuck with you, even if he was white. The real Jesus? God, Lee wouldn't come within 300 miles of y'all, bruh.
Christ is king! Christ is king!
That's
Christ
right.
is king! Christ is king!
And it is so refreshing to hear his name in American politics.
I want to dissect how, in the United States, Christianity is often weaponized as a tool of political power or racism, a way to claim moral authority, rally followers, and mask brutal policies behind this sacred facade. I want to make the...
That's another thing too, bruh. When African Americans were taken on ships and were sent to America and sold as slaves, it was illegal in law, written in law. It is illegal to teach a how to read or write. Yet, those same white men, those same slave masters, forced their slaves to read the Bible. The same slave masters that beat their wives for teaching black children how to read gave us this book to read. Christianity was forced on African Americans. They gave us a book, but it was illegal to know how to read it? Why do you guys think that is? Why do you think that it was illegal for a black man or woman to be taught how to read or write? Because knowledge is just so powerful. And if a black person knows how to read or write, then they'll start putting things together, and they'll start getting smart, and they'll start reading contracts and reading stuff that they're signing, and they'll start writing, and they'll start telling people what's going on and all this shit. We can't have it. Yet they gave us a book to read and said, this is your new religion. You believe in this. Why do you think they did that? Do you think they cared about our eternal suffering? Do you think they cared where we went after we died? Do you think the slave master was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and introduce them to God, so that when they die, probably by the hands of me, at least they're going to be in the hands of our Father up in heaven. They don't give a damn about our eternal suffering. They didn't even want to share a water fountain with us. They didn't even want to share a water fountain with us. They didn't want to go to schools with us. They don't like us. They don't like us. You think they want to share what they believe is eternal paradise with their heavenly Father with us? No. I'll let you sit on that one.
One thing clear. I don't think America has a Christianity problem. Christianity is not the problem. America has a power problem that has co-opted Christianity and wears it as a disguise.
Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are, and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it, because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot.
He couldn't even get out John 3:16, bro. The most famous over. You could have just said John 3:16, but he didn't, because he doesn't even know it, bro. These people are not Christians. Trump is not Christian. Nobody in the White House is really Christian. Nobody is. No, bro. No. I'm gonna take it a step further. The people in the Vatican aren't Christian. Nobody, the highest people in Christianity are not Christian. They just love the power. They love being on top because they feel like God. Trump loves being the president, and he knows you stupid fucking white nationalist will fucking lick his asshole if he pretends he believes in the shit that you believe in. The Pope loves the power. The Vatican, oh my god, the horrors. The things that go on in the church and with priests in the Vatican, would fucking destroy you if you knew what was going on. Some of it's in the Epstein files. And you can see. The point is that they're not Christian. At least not real Christians. The Christian, they're this Christian. They're Roman Christian, if that. Christians love, Christians accept, Christians teach, Christians give. Christians love their neighbor. Christians love the people who are different than them. Christians help the sick. Christians stand up to injustice and racism and bigotry and evil people in power. Christians reject the status quo. They try to make positive societal change. They try to better people's lives. They follow Yeshua's teachings. Stop idolizing money and fame and power and celebrities, and they idolize God and their relationship with themselves and God. But we don't see that, do we? This guy's a jackass.
To you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that
no,
you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible, the whole Bible is an incredible.
So how did...
Bro said the Old Testament or New Testament. It's probably equal. The whole book is just, the book's awesome. It's like LeBron when he got caught with that Malcolm X book that he was not reading, bruh. And they asked him about it, bruh.
So you're holding the autobiography of Malcolm X along with Alex Haley. I don't know how far you are into the book, but what's your biggest takeaway so far?
I kind of just started a couple days ago, but I've read a lot of notes over the years. It's my first time actually reading this from start to finish. But just a very smart man, very, very, very smart man, and basically his words in the 60s. And
Trump has never opened a Bible in his life. I don't think he can even touch a Bible without getting burnt. You think this man's on your side? You guys are being lied to.
Personal faith become part of this political machine that we see today. To understand Christian nationalism, we have to examine Christianity in America, how it evolved from belief system into social infrastructure.
Bro,
I'm being trained with thousands of others here at Campus Crusade as a part of a Great Commission army to go out and spread the claims of Jesus Christ to the entire world.
At Campus Crusade for Christ, we recognize that aggressive Christianity is the only answer. We are training youth in this battle between the forces of God and the forces of anti-God to be revolutionaries for Jesus Christ.
This guy doesn't even have eyes, bro. Look at this. This is scary as fuck. This guy doesn't have a soul. These people are lying to you. This guy is not. If heaven is real, if you believe in heaven, this guy's not getting in. Trump's not getting in. If there's really a guy on the throne judging every single decision that we've ever made, these guys aren't getting in. Yet you follow them. You listen to what they say as if they are God.
When Martin Luther Kuhn is out in the streets agitating, why, I agitate back. And the uniform is very good for agitating. For appearing before a hearing, it's a mental battle of wits, not a battle of agitation.
We can have our country once again free. We can have it once again white. We can have it once again Christian. And above all, ladies and gentlemen, we can have it once again a Christian American republic with a wholesome atmosphere that every American can be proud of. I thank you all very much.
Well, this game affects the most intelligent of our children, and the pieces include white witches, wizards, necromancers, the clerics, that type of thing. It includes evil wizards. It's a white versus black witchcraft. The good versus evil is white versus black witchcraft. I mean, the gruesomeness of this game and the occult link to it.
Well, I know that when I did my message, and this has happened, I have letter after letter where people took the pieces. Now, there's sixes involved in the pieces of the game, but they'd take the pieces of the game, they would throw them in the incinerator or the fireplace, and screams would come out because there seemed to be some kind of spiritual forces inhabiting those pieces.
I'll take things that never happened for 600, Alex. They just get on the news and just fucking lie. You're telling me somebody threw a Dungeons and Dragons dice in the fire and they heard screams? White women ate that shit up though on the morning news, didn't they?
And children would drop out of life. They didn't want to study anymore.
Legions of far-left radicals resort to desperate acts of violence and terror because they know that their ideas and our...
When overt racism became socially unacceptable, the religious framing became even more vital. Instead of bluntly claiming white supremacy, many shifted to coded phrases like traditional values, law and order. The language itself softened, but the underlying intent preserved a social hierarchy. Now, at the same time, it's important to note, Christianity has also inspired abolitionists, civil rights leaders, and social justice movements from Frederick Douglass to Martin Luther King Jr. Faithful Christians have fought oppression. That only underscores our point. The issue is not Christianity, it is how Christianity is used. The faith can motivate radical love, or it could serve as fuel for those defending or attempting to defend a social...
What the fuck? That's so crazy! They put a cross in a swastika? If Jesus Christ walked in this church, he would have gotten lynched. And they're praising him. Whether they know it or not, they've been praising a black man. You're praising a black man while saying how much you hate us and hate black people and hate Negroes and want to keep us separate. You're praising him.
Hierarchy. American history shows a pattern. Whenever certain people in their power felt dominance threatened, be it slaveholders, segregationists, or nativist politicians, they turned to Christian identity and rhetoric to shore up their authority. Over time, this has built an infrastructure, churches, religious colleges, media outlets, and political organizations intertwined in maintaining a particular social order. By the late 20th century, this fusion of religion and politics has been formalized into what we now call the religious right. Think of the moral majority in the 1980s or the Christian coalition in the 1990s.
There's been a moral permissiveness that has frightened millions of people. Some deeper national yearning in the country, a turning towards spirituality, a yearning for morality. And now in the realm of politics, it has come into discussion. Americans want more than anything else this year in their president, the spiritual quality.
The most important thing in my life is Jesus Christ.
Is America facing its best years ever or a period of national decline?
They were essentially political machines. They realized that if you could mobilize churches, you could produce disciplined voting blocks. Sermons turned into speeches, issues like abortion.
Those red hats have been around forever, guys. The hats may change, but the message stays the same.
Like abortion, school prayer, and family values became rallying cries that were as much about identity and power as about genuine moral debate. The result was formidable infrastructure, mega churches that we know today, connected to political PACs, televangelists acting as kingmakers, and faith becoming a voting identity. Religion had not only become a personal guide, but it became a team jersey, a badge of political allegiance. So by the 2000s, and most certainly today, American Christianity in its dominant white evangelical form functions in many ways like a political party or a lobbying firm. It's an institution with vast networks of media, funding, schools, and voter outreach, all dedicated to advancing a certain vision of society. This is the context in which Christian nationalism thrives, a context where Christianity is not interfaith, it's outer identity linked to power. It's important to note that people are not born into this ideology. They're recruited and formed through a sophisticated pipeline. Decades ago, church attendance and family tradition might have been the main ways people adopted Christian nationalist views. However, today, there's an entire media and influencer ecosystem designed to shape Christianity into a political identity and draw people into the fold, especially young, impressionable people. Consider the world of right-wing Christian content online and on campus. Instead of Sunday school and sermons, we have Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok preachers and campus agitators who blend faith with partisan talking points. Outrage is the hook. For example, if you look at Turning Point USA and figures like Charlie Kirk, he wasn't a pastor, but he tours megachurches and universities rallying about how they, the liberals, or the secular elites, and the professors are attacking Christian America. Rallies and videos, every political disagreement would become a clash between godliness and evil. He would frame a debate about tax policy as a question of biblical truth, or a university diversity initiative as an assault on Christian values. And young conservatives would eat this up because it feels rebellious and righteous, as if by owning the libs, they are doing God's work. Now, the genius of this pipeline is that it turns politics into entertainment and identity. On YouTube, titles like Watch Christian Conservative Destroy Liberal Atheists, it racks up millions of views. While they're not surrounded by other Christians, they get a rush of vicarious victory. Politics becomes less about policy and more about smashing enemies in this culture war cage match. And as this content grips people emotionally, it also reshapes their identity. I'm not just a student or a young person. I'm a Christian soldier in a war for my country's soul. Now that's powerful. It taps into all the feelings of belonging, purpose, adventure, and faith. Don't get distracted now. This is also a business model. There's an entire outrage economy built on Christian nationalist themes. Influencers cry Christian persecution, and then they direct their viewers to subscribe, donate, buy merch, and attend their paid conferences. There's money in this. Churches sell books on spiritual warfare against the woke left. Online stores sell their t-shirts with slogans like Army of the Lord or Putting Christ Back in America. Outrage brings clicks, and clicks bring cash. Cash funds more content. It builds bigger churches. So how does a movement ostensibly about Christian morality latch onto figures like, I don't know, Donald Trump? During Trump's campaigns and presidency, he openly courted evangelical leaders, promising them judges who would, quote, protect Christianity, by which he meant outlaw abortion, curtail LGBTQ rights, and so on. In return, he asked for their blessing and their flock's votes, and both sides delivered. Trump installed the Supreme Court justices they wanted, and they turned out an overwhelming vote for him. At the 2024 election, for example, over 80% of white evangelical Protestants voted for Trump, making them the most loyal Republican voting bloc. Their support was so robust that Public Religion Research Institute noted white evangelicals were the single most Trump-friendly demographic group in the country. And this wasn't a fluke. This is a result of years of messaging that political loyalty is a mark of faith. It's weird, though. Many of these same evangelicals once claimed that character counts in presidents, like back in the Clinton era, but with Trump, it seems that there are discarded concerns about adultery, vulgarity, lies, or cruelty. Why? Because Christian nationalism doesn't require the leader to be a saint, only to be a vessel. He gave them federal judges who handed down decisions aligned with conservative Christian values. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Israel and Jerusalem, pandering to end times prophecy beliefs some evangelicals hold. He filled his rallies and speeches with rhetoric about Judeo-Christian heritage. He performed Christian nationalism, even if he doesn't even live a Christian life, and that was enough. Now, this reaches mystical proportions. A PRI survey in 2024 found that 2/3 of Americans who identify as Christian nationalist adherents believe that Trump's presidency was ordained by God. Think about that. For millions, Trump wasn't a candidate that they liked. He was literally chosen by the Almighty to lead America. When a political leader is imbued with that kind of divine mandate in the minds of followers, it's almost cult-like. Well, it is cult-like. MAGA, bro. MAGA. For Trump, these benefits are clear. He's got an army of intensely loyal foot soldiers. I mean, quite literally. White evangelicals and other Christian conservatives have extremely high voting and activism rates. A built-in turnout machine that could swing elections. They show up for him in high droves, and he knew that they would. And this arrangement shows that Christian nationalism is not about doctrinal purity or even religious consistency. It's about defending identity and power structure. The belief that the American state should explicitly be Christian, that the laws should enforce particular Christian moral views, and that political authority should rest with those who are true Christian.
The Bible said that we take the violence, take it, and we take it by force. We are here to ready to take this nation back. And I believe without a shadow of a doubt, the only man that God has anointed here in 2024 to be the next president of the United States of America. And that is Donald J. Are you ready, America?
At its core, it's a narrative that America was founded by and for a certain type of Christian, usually implied to be white, Protestant, and conservative, and that this arrangement needs to be preserved or restored. Christian nationalism says America belongs to us, to the Christian in-group. Religion should dominate public life, and if you disagree, you're not a real American. And opposing our political agenda is tantamount to attacking our faith.
Yo,
Hierarchy
these are
is
glazers.
this ideology. It's about who sits above
glazer.
whom in society.
Y'all are Christian, and y'all are protecting Jesus. Why the fuck are you burning crosses? Why are you burning the symbol of your God? Has anyone ever really stopped to think about that? Like, why the KKK burned crosses? Don't they believe in Jesus and the crucifixion? And isn't that cross the symbol of Christianity and the story of Jesus? And you're burning it? It was never about Jesus, guys.
Whom, in society, Christian nationalists believe that in a divinely sanctioned order, men are above women, Christians are above non-Christians, native-born are above immigrants, straight above gay, and commonly white above non-white. And not every Christian nationalist will admit to the racial part, but it's deeply embedded in the history and dog whistles of the movement, white and Christian. During segregation, this theology was explicit. White supremacists argued that God created separate races and wanted them separate. However, in modern times, overtly racist language is less common.
Ronald Reagan is the devil, and he has done enormous amounts of damage to the black community that we are still facing. Ronald Reagan was one of the worst things to ever happen to the black community. He was one of the worst things to ever happen to the black community. We're still dealing with some of this shit that to this day it still affects the community. His laws and policies and the propaganda that he spread at that time, we're still dealing with that shit.
Times, overtly racist language is less common, but it survives coded as talk about, culture or heritage or Western civilization. If you listen closely, when they say restore America's Christian heritage, there's often an undertone of restoring a time when others, or non-whites or non-Christians, knew their place. It's also telling that anxiety about demographic change often correlates with Christian nationalist sentiment. As white Christians have declined from an overwhelming majority of US populations in past decades to around 42% today, the cry of Christian values being under attack has grown louder. By framing it as a religious fight, they avoid explicitly saying white people are losing dominance, but the subtext is all there. Let's make one thing clear. The United States was not founded as a Christian nation by law. The Constitution never mentions Christianity. And in fact, the Founding Fathers explicitly forbade religious tests for office and established a secular government where church and state were separate. Government from establishing any religion as official. And the founders, influenced by Enlightenment ideas, wanted to avoid the bloody history of European religious wars and state churches. They knew the dangers of mixing clerical authority with political power. However, Christian nationalists today either ignore these facts or try to rewrite history with claims like the founders were devout men who intended biblical law to guide us. Now, that's a complete myth. Nevertheless, the Christian nation myth is powerful because it gives a sense of legacy and entitlement. We're just trying to go back to what America was always supposed to be. Make America great again. Now, it wouldn't matter unless ideologies can actually shape the world, and they can. For Christian nationalism, this all crosses over in legislation, court rulings, and public institutions. This is where the movement's abstract ideas turn into very concrete rules for everybody, whether you share the same faith or not. We've lived through a big example of this recently, the outlawing of abortion in many states. For decades, the religious right fought to overturn Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision that...
Y'all don't give a fuck about the kids. I need a big screen for this shit too. Y'all don't give a fuck about the kids. Y'all don't care about the kids. I used to be, and I guess I'll do some self-disclosure. When I was in like high school, I never took a stance on abortion, but at that time I was more against abortion because, again, like I was fed propaganda and bullshit. and oh, abortion is murder. First of all, y'all don't give a fuck about kids because y'all cut funding when they're born. You decrease single mothers and their access to care and their access to food stamps and their access to feed, clothe, wash, and care for the baby once it's out the womb. You don't care about the kids. You don't care about the kids that are being sacrificed on Epstein's Island. You don't care about the kids that don't look like you, or the kids that can't afford food and can't afford school lunches. You don't care about the kids. You don't care about them. You just care about control and making sure what happens in the United States is what you want to happen in the United States. All of these things, like this abortion is murder, is just a smokescreen. It's really just a smokescreen. It really is. And I can tell you, I have deep dove into these right-wing propaganda machines. I mean, I was a college kid in 2020. I know how easy it was on TikTok and Instagram, how they were showing up to our college campuses, that huge, crazy movement. How easy it is to get swept into that right wing. I'm doing this for God. I'm doing this for Christ. And you're just calling a black woman a nigger. You don't give a fuck, bro. You're just a racist piece of shit. I have more respect for people that are like, yeah, I just hate black people. I'm just a racist piece of shit. I have more respect for you. For somebody, I don't respect you, but I have more respect for that person than somebody who's like, oh yeah, I love Jesus and I hate niggers because Jesus wants me to. Bro, shit's actually kind of pissing me off. I'm actually kind of getting irritated.
Had protected abortion rights. In 2022, they succeeded with Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, and numerous states immediately banned or severely restricted abortion, often with no exceptions for rape or health of the mother. These bans were explicitly lobbied for by Christian organizations and justified in religious terms the sanctity of life from conception as a religious belief. The result is women.
Anybody who cares about Roe v. Wade and is like, oh, stop murdering the kids, go to Epstein's Island and tear down that giant temple that they used to worship Moloch. Go do that. The god of child sacrifice. That's what they're doing on these islands after they rape and eat the kids. They sacrifice some and drink baby blood to get younger and the enzymes from it. You care about the kids? Go do something about that then. Why you give a fuck if a 16-year-old girl gets pregnant and isn't ready to be a mother? Y'all don't give a fuck, man. Y'all don't care about the kids, bro. Y'all just care about pretending like you do.
And girls in some states being forced to carry pregnancies to term against their will. And that is Christian nationalism in action. What a particular theology holds, that life beginning at conception and is paramount, is imposed on millions who may or may not share that belief, for whom its imposition can cause great harm or death. This movement has not stopped at abortion. Contraception could be the next on the chopping block. LGBTQ rights are also another prime area. We've seen a wave of state laws justified by Christian values.
That guy's a kid, bro. This is a fucking kid, bro. I fucking hate this guy. What's his name? It's like Curtis Jackson or some shit.
The computer say, Floyd said, fuck T.I., fuck Nelly, fuck 50. I'm like, what did he say fuck me for?
Clarence Thomas. Yeah, that fucking piece of shit, bro. You're a fucking... You're a piece of shit. You're a traitor to your people. You're a traitor to the human race. Not even just black people. You're a traitor to the human race. You sold out. Piece of shit, bitch.
Individuals' ability to get health care or even exist openly. Same-sex marriage, while nationally legal since 2015, is openly threatened by politicians who say Christian beliefs about marriage should take precedence. Religious freedom in this context has been redefined. Traditionally, it meant that you could worship as you please and the state can't prefer a religion. However, under Christian nationalist pressure, religious freedom is twisted to mean the dominant religion that serves exemptions from laws and even the right to dictate laws. You can see the same dynamic even outside formal court cases, and how Christian grievance narratives are socially and politically rewarded. In the University of Oklahoma, Samantha Fulnecki gained the national conservative attention after writing an essay and speaking publicly about feeling penalized in an academic setting for expressing her Christian beliefs. She wrote an essay and it got failed. It was essentially along the lines of, hey, this is not valid because my God says, yeah, Samantha Fulnecki was rapidly elevated by conservative media after failing her essay, and invited into major platforms.
Bro, I remember this story. And it was like this girl who was like, I got an F on this paper because I wrote about God. No, bitch, you got an F on the paper because you can't fucking write. You're fucking stupid. Go read the paper. Go read the paper that she wrote. That shit was fucking trash. If you want to take a racist, homophobic, whatever stance, at least use proper grammar and cite sources of academic journals. Trust me, motherfucker. I went through 4 years of undergrad and I'm in higher education at graduate school. You need sources, you need academic journals, you need better grammar, punctuation, and you need to actually organize your thoughts. You got a fucking F on the paper because you can't write for shit.
Brought in nationalist leaders quickly framed his death as evidence that Christians were being hunted. The tragedy produced mobilization, vigils, fundraising, a renewed urgency to escalate the culture war, performances.
Bro, her husband, the father of her kids, just died being shot in the neck in public on video. And this is her first appearance?
Urgency to escalate.
Niggas have lights and pyrotechnics? They practice this? They practice her stage entrance? You ready to grieve, baby?
The culture performances.
Look
a
at
lot
those
of
people,
them
bro. They're ready
looking like
to
they're
grieve.
straight out of the Boys episode.
Yes, rest in peace,
and that
Charlie
brings us
Kirk.
to the part that matters the most. The real damage of Christian nationalism isn't theoretical. I don't care if people are Christian. I don't care if there are politicians that are Christian. What matters ultimately is that people are being affected by this negatively. Women lose bodily autonomy. LGBTQ people lose safety and legal protection. Religious and racial minorities are treated as outsiders in their own country. Democracy erodes when one faction claims divine right to rule and treats electoral defeat as illegitimate. Truth becomes negotiable. Education becomes ideological. And ironically, Christianity itself becomes collateral damage. The movement claims to defend Christianity, but in practice it discredits it because what people see isn't spiritual life, it's political dominance wrapped in religious language. And yeah, I felt like this is kind of dragging, so that's all I have to say. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Here's what I gotta say about this, man. Actually, let me change real quick. I had to switch the hoodies, y'all. Check me out. And I had to change the hoodie, yo. Y'all rock with me, bro? Y'all rock with it? Yeah, man. He hit the nail on the head. It's unfortunate, especially since I am a Christian and I did read the Bible. I think I want to start there. When I was a kid, I, was told to follow Christianity. I stopped for a little bit and then I rejoined on my own because I just thought I felt God and the spirit of God. So naturally, like every Christian, I decided to read the Bible cover to cover. Except, not every Christian does that. In fact, very little Christians do that. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that probably 90% of Christians in the world, including political and spiritual religious leaders, have not read the Bible cover to cover. Because if you read the Bible, you'll start seeing inconsistencies. If you read the Bible, just pay attention to the story of Jesus, and that's all you need to take from it. Once you read that, take that and do your research on historical, accurate events. Don't look for the Bible for anything else. Read the story of Jesus. All right, some of it's real, some of it's not, some of it's exaggerated. Read the story of Jesus. When he talks, listen. Listen to when he talks, not when he's doing miracles or any of that other crap that they put in there. Listen to what he says, take that information and do historical research. Research about things that happened in the Middle East at that time, research about America, research about everything. Once you do that, you'll understand. You'll understand things very clearly. But it's just a shame, because it's just a shame knowing that they took Yeshua's name and his story, and that this is what it is today. This is Christianity in the big 2026. This man was a spiritual teacher. He was a black man from the Middle East who taught people how to find God within themselves and be connected to Christ consciousness without having to go to those bullshit churches or pay money and tithe or any of the crazy things these religious teachers asked them to do at that time and continue to ask us to do to this day. He was sold for 30 pieces of silver. That's odd, right? 30 pieces of silver. Coincidentally, in that time, a slave can be sold. The max amount of money that somebody could get in a slave auction was what? You guessed it. 30 silver coins. Jesus was sold to the Romans by the Jewish leaders and Israelites head people because they didn't want to give up their power, and they crucified him. That was a slave punishment, was crucifixion. And if Jesus Christ came down today, right, like they say, oh, he's coming back. If Jesus came back today, y'all would kill him again. Y'all would kill him again. If Jesus Christ came back today, the United States government would label him a domestic terrorist and execute him. But the people who claim to follow him are following the people who are not following him. It's disheartening. It's it really is, man. I hope someday things can change. But that's a dangerous path, is the white nationalists Christian pipeline. Oh my God.
I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.